What is up, Insaners, and welcome to the first episode of our new series, the Premier League Chatter. In this series, we'll be covering different conversations that are going around in the Premier League on a weekly basis. One of the biggest news this week has been the sacking of Frank Lampard as Chelsea boss and getting replaced by Thomas Tuchel, the former PSG manager. So in today's video, we'll be covering the different tactics and formations that Chelsea can have under their new manager Tuchel. Do hit the like button if you like this video, subscribe to our channel Insanely Football for more content related to the latest football news across the Premier League. We'll be doing different kinds of videos in this series and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're doing a different playlist on Fantasy Premier League as well, so in case you're interested and are playing the game this year, do remember to check the playlist. We have provided a link in the description below. With all that done, let's get into the action straight away. Thomas Tuchel is the new Chelsea manager following the sacking of the club legend Frank Lampard. Tuchel lost his job at PSG in December, but is now back in management at Stamford Bridge as the Blues attempt to fight their way to the Champions League qualification. Huge sums of money were spent on squad improvements in the summer, including the arrival of German aces Timo Werner and Kai Havertz, Hakim Ziyech, Ben Chilwell and Edouard Mendy were further signings. More than 200 million was spent on these players, while Thiago Silva came in on a free transfer, going high on wages. So with Lampard failing in his mission for, at the very least, a top 4 finish, it's no surprise that Tuchel has been brought in. As well as a compatriot to Werner and Havertz, he's managed Christian Pulisic and Thiago Silva. He's also recognized for his ability to work with young players, something key for a manager in West London. Tuchel is a tactical manager who are not afraid to play with his tactics if he can spot a weakness in his opponents. He won't blindly stick to a formation and is happy to take a risk even if it does lead to criticism. Coming to the first formation, 4-3-3. One thing might be certain that Tuchel is likely to adopt different styles with the same formation, so his central three in the midfield will change regularly depending on who the Blues face. Against a tougher opponent, he is likely to pair a defensive midfielder and N'Golo Kante with a deep-lying playmaker, which could be Jorginho. Their roles will allow Havertz to operate in a position higher up the field when Chelsea have possession, and it is possible to see him creating overloads on both left and right wings. This would see a more mobile forward Werner drop deep and allow the winger on the opposite flank to occupy positions in the penalty area with an attacking fullback out wide in his support. Switching sides is vital for Tuchel's team, so Ziyech and his playmaking ability will be very important. Ziyech has already shown his skills with some tremendous crosses to the back post this campaign when he has been fit and played in the Chelsea 11. There's also a chance in matches against teams who sit deep and defend, there's a possibility of two fast and skillful wingers looking to get behind the defense. In this case, there is a chance that Ziyech may occupy a role as a number 8, allowing him to express himself and finding the darting runs of his teammates. Tuchel isn't afraid of having two attacking number 8s, which still makes room for Havertz, although Mason Mount's pressing ability does still mean that he's likely to play a role under his new boss, just maybe a little less. Callum Hudson-Odoi is another player with the potential to flourish with this change, given the Germans' ability to work well with youngsters. In Tuchel's 4-3-3, the wingers often move inside or drop deep as the fullbacks provide width. The second option is playing a 4-1-4-1. During his time with Dortmund, Tuchel also used this formation as he looked to retain possession with a deep-lying playmaker behind attacking central midfielders. This is where we can see a combination of Jorginho, Havertz and Mount together, all working to create an overload, which is most likely to be on the side of Pulisic and the flying fullback Ben Chilwell. Based on our earlier analysis, Tuchel will not require Jorginho to play like Wilfred Ndidi, for example, or even like Pereira at PSG. The defensive midfield role under Tuchel is more demanding in terms of awareness, positioning and quick thinking than outright physicality. Now this is extremely important since the team will usually be defending in a 4-1-4-1 shape, and so the pivot will need to cover the horizontal space behind the midfield block. He'll need to understand when, where and who to press to avoid being caught out, and the main task will be to buy time for the defense to be able to readjust into a compact shape rather than using physicality to win duels outright. The versatility of the right back Reece James allows him to help out centrally and drift into midfield areas as his teammates move off the pitch. In this formation, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang was often used thanks to his ability to drop deep to find the ball, a trait which Werner definitely has. We come to the third setup playing a 4-4-2. When up against a Borussia Dortmund team playing in a 5-4-1 formation last season in the Champions League, Tuchel opted to use this formation to exploit his opponents. In the Premier League, a number of sides have the ability to use a 5-4-1 or a variant of this, so the German might use a system on occasion. With two forwards spinning back the centre backs, room is left for wide attacking midfielders to snag the ball between the lines. Against Dortmund, it was Neymar and Di Maria, and this could well translate to Pulisic and Ziyech. They will be fed the ball by a deep-lying playmaker with a defensive midfielder in place, ready to sit with the centre-backs when the full-backs drive forward. Counter-pressing allowed PSG to regain possession a lot, and it's something we are set to see more of under Tuchel. Now, Tuchel is a big fan of Pulisic from his Borussia Dortmund days, with the new boss even giving the American his first team debut as a teenager. It's likely Tuchel would aim to get Pulisic into his starting 11 and could ditch a defender to do so. Ziyech and Pulisic could start on the wings, with Werner left alone up top. However, in this instance, Havertz would stay in his preferred number 10 role rather than deeper in a 4-3-3 and could provide support for his compatriot. Mason Mount and one of Jorginho would start in deeper roles. Edouard Mendy will almost certainly return in goal. The Senegal international sat out the FA Cup win over Luton Town on Sunday, a game in which Kepa was responsible for the opposition goal. We expect Reece James to stay in as the right back, and his attacking talents will be vital for Tuchel going forward. It's a similar situation for Ben Chilwell on the opposite flank, another nailed-on starter for me. In the heart of defense, Thiago Silva, who worked with the German at PSG, is a confirmed starter, and we feel Antonio Rudiger may be handed the spot alongside the Brazilian. Tuchel wanted to bring his compatriot to the French capital last summer, so he clearly has belief in Rudiger's ability. It should not be forgotten that he's also started the last 3 of the 4 Premier League games. Now, these are some different setups and formations that Tuchel could have for Chelsea, but there are certain key players that will be playing a very important role for Tuchel. The first name is Jorginho. At Dortmund, Tuchel played with one holding midfielder, and that role was taken by Ilkay Gundogan. In Paris, the German head coach often used a double pivot, while the Brazilian centre-back Marquinhos was pushed forward as a defensive midfielder, either part of a double pivot or the deepest midfielder in a 3-man midfield. This role is pivotal for Tuchel's teams, as he preaches control in most phases of play, and using the deepest midfielder is his way of ensuring this. We believe that Jorginho is going to be an important part of Tuchel's team. The former Napoli midfielder had actually been one of Tuchel's targets during his time in France, and so we know that Tuchel does rate Jorginho highly. The demand of this role under the German are quite high, with exceptional understanding of the game and good communication skills with teammates being just 2 of the intangibles that any player who plays there will need to have. Now, this once again points towards Jorginho as the outstanding option from his Chelsea squad. Regardless of the exact shape being used, the pivot's ability is going to impact the team performance the most. Therefore, not only should this player understand the game, but he should also be able to communicate with his teammates, and that's a strength of Jorginho's. Under Maurizio Sarri, we have seen Jorginho do both jobs very well at both Chelsea and Napoli. Therefore, we believe that Jorginho would be the best option for Tuchel as the deepest midfielder with regard to build-up and offensive play, but the roles require more than that. The pivot is also vital in the defensive phase, as he would likely be the only one protecting the back 4. Therefore, instead of man-marking a specific player, he needs to cover space and appear at the right place at the right time. Now, this will be a challenge for Jorginho, as the Italian was criticized for his weakness in terms of physicality under Sarri. Even though he might not be quick enough to chase runners, he will still need to resort to tactical fouls to nip opposition counter-attacks in the bud. Fernandinho at Man City has perhaps been the best in the Premier League at this over the past few seasons, and Jorginho will need to quickly adopt a similar manner of employing tactical fouls. This will mainly be because the German will play a high line and an intensive style, which will lead to counter-attacking situations if the ball is lost high up the pitch. Now, the pivot will also need to move into the correct areas to be able to counter-press effectively when the ball is lost in those areas. If Tuchel needs one player in that deeper position at Chelsea, it should be Jorginho, a player with enough intelligence to get the job done in his system. Now, we believe that there is a potential candidate as a secret weapon for the team. This player is Hakim Ziyech, who arrived at Stamford Bridge from Ajax in summer. The Moroccan international could be shaped as a key player for Chelsea in a similar manner to how Tuchel used Neymar at PSG, given that they both have similar characteristics. Under Lampard, Ziyech often played as the right winger, staying very wide on the right. Even though he would move into central areas on occasion, he was rarely involved in the build-up. This may be a little bit similar to Di Maria at PSG under Tuchel, cutting inside to shoot or crossing diagonally, but we feel that he can do so much more than this. On the contrary, Neymar was given a free role by Tuchel regardless of his starting position on paper. This was because of his exceptional dribbling skills and creativity in terms of passing. Neymar also has excellent sense of recognizing spaces, appearing at the right time to support his teammates. Given his caliber and profile, he was the player responsible for organizing the attack in Paris. Under Tuchel at PSG, Neymar was used as more than just a finisher. He turned into a creative outlet for the side. Now the question is, does Ziyech possess a similar skill set to do this job for Tuchel at Chelsea? Going by the evidence from Ziyech's career so far, with Ajax as well as his national side Morocco, we believe that he can fulfill this responsibility, as he has shown similar traits in terms of positioning and movement to that seen from Neymar at PSG. For example, he's comfortable at receiving the ball in central spaces by maximizing positional superiority. Another part we should pay attention to is his understanding of the game. When given the freedom to roam from his position like Neymar, we can expect Ziyech to utilize the space well to link the attack in the most effective way. When Ziyech is in the final third, he should not be constrained by having to stay wide on the touchline given his creativity. He perceives spaces well and is adept to just not moving into those spaces himself, but also exploiting his teammates' movements to make passes in those areas. By playing Ziyech through the center, he can play through passes and killer balls to send attacking players into potential 1v1 situations against the opposition keeper. Of course, this part of analysis does not mean that Ziyech is going to play in one fixed role forever under Tuchel. It's just one of the more unconventional tactics that the German head coach might suggest, and the quality of Ziyech is such that he can fit into any attacking position as long as there's good balance and structure to the side. We expect that Ziyech's performance levels would be much higher under Tuchel than what we've seen from him so far in London. Now, another interesting question to consider is the fullback's role under Tuchel. In Paris, the fullbacks were more traditional in nature, mainly going up and down the wide zones. However, if you see how he instructed Guerreiro at Dortmund, who not only played as a left back but also a left winger and a left attacking midfielder, you can expect something similar from Ben Chilwell. His instructions to his fullbacks at PSG were made with the intention of keeping attackers such as Mbappe closer to the goal. This meant that the wingers should be narrow and inverted, which draws the opposition fullbacks into narrow positions and opens the wide zones for his fullbacks. This is a preferred pattern that Tuchel used at PSG this season, passing to wider zones in the second phase, then trying to cross early to attack space behind the backline. The summer signing from Leicester City has played a very traditional fullback role so far in London, mostly going up and down the left touchline and deep to provide crosses. However, the nature of the job may soon be very different for him. Guerreiro moved into central positions under Tuchel, and this was largely due to the fact that he did not play as an orthodox left back, often moving into half spaces and playing almost as a midfielder at times. Chilwell may need to adapt his game to be able to do this in the next few weeks and months, which could take him to another level. This also means that we're likely to see a lot of rotational movement from Tuchel down the flanks, as this is one of his key facets of his tactics. He will try to get players with offensive superiority such as Ousmane Dembele at Dortmund, for example, into isolated situations on the flanks so that they have space to run into, and there are many candidates for this at Chelsea with the likes of Callum Hudson-Odoi, Christian Pulisic and Ziyech especially. Now another question a lot of Chelsea fans would have is, how will Tuchel get the best of Werner and Havertz? Lampard's inability to get the best out of the German duo has undoubtedly been a big factor for his removal, and Tuchel would need to quickly revitalize them if they are to realize their potential at Stamford Bridge. Tuchel might play Havertz and Werner together as strikers, and it is extremely important in particular to put the former Leverkusen man closer to the penalty area. If Havertz is played at centre forward, he is very likely to drop deep in the build-up to create central overload at the midfield. This is similar to a lot of what he did in Germany and should not be new to him. Let's imagine that Chelsea are facing a 4-2-3-1, an opponent that has 3 midfielders in the centre. With Havertz dropping deep, it will be very easy for Chelsea to create a numerical advantage at the centre of the pitch. The shape might be a diamond, but it is also possible to appear in other forms. Alternatively, if Havertz's movement is going to take the opposition centre-back out of position, that is even better. Tuchel's team will always have the verticality to play behind the defence. For example, a situation is possible where one centre-back leaves the backline to follow Havertz, and thus the winger or the offensive midfielder can utilise the space created and make a run in behind. With Jorginho playing as a pivot, such a pass would be quite possible to pull off and would lead to a 1v1 with the keeper. One additional point to note is that Aubameyang developed into a well-rounded striker under Tuchel, making a lot of functional runs to different directions, dropping deep, running behind, diagonal runs to the wide spaces and so on. He was already extremely proficient at offensive transitions, so Chelsea fans can hope that Tuchel can have a similar impact on Werner and Havertz. This analysis discusses Tuchel's tactical philosophy and what can be expected from him at Chelsea with the players at his disposal. The tweaks and changes mentioned here may not be implemented instantly, but seem the most sensible given the profile of the squad at Chelsea, and the quickest way to get some of the players performing at a higher level than they were earlier. He's one of the best tacticians in the world at the moment, and we have projected how he would potentially change the roles of some key players at Chelsea. Tuchel is known for not being compromising in terms of his demands and the way he does things, which has often not gone down well with his superiors at previous clubs. This is especially interesting given that he's chosen to now come to Chelsea, where political intrigue and dressing room power have caused a number of managers, including Lampard, to lose their jobs. Can he handle the hierarchy at Chelsea better? Only time will tell. That'll be all for today's video, guys. Hope you liked our tactical analysis on Chelsea. Let us know in the comments below if you agree with us or not, or do you have a separate setup in mind? Do hit the like button if you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to our channel Insanely Football for more such content. We'll be back with another video in the series very soon, so do watch out for the space, and I will see you Insaners next time.